All right, welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We're your hosts, Eric Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
We're the co-founders of AVNI, a brand for influencers and entrepreneurs. Our guest today is the founder of multiple real estate companies and properties, including Intero Real Estate. He does an event called the Relentless event. He has an online learning platform called M.PIRE, a book called The Resilience Map, and a podcast called The Danny Morel Show. Danny, you're killing it. We're glad to have you on. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm pumped.
So Danny, we always do research. I watched a bunch of your stuff last night. Man, you have a really cool story. And I related to it because you essentially had everything, lost everything, and now have worked your way back into getting everything.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like, it wasn't given to Danny. He worked for it from the time you were 18.
Right.
So yeah. I think let's start there. With when you were 18, tell us how it started.
You know, me personally, I always had this inkling inside of me that I wanted to do something great in life. I didn't want to be average. I didn't want to have what everybody else had. I just had this sense that there was a greater purpose. I didn't understand what that purpose was. I didn't understand what the vehicle was. And quite frankly, you don't need to at the beginning. You just need to have this gut instinct, which probably most of your followers and listeners have, that there's something great that they want to try to accomplish, you know? And I remember, you know, it was literally the day after graduation. If you guys
high school graduation.
If you think back to Tom and Jerry, remember Tom and Jerry?
Yeah.
So, you know, which one was the mouse, by the way? Was it Tom
I don't
or Jerry?
remember.
I don't know. Whoever was the mouse, right?
One was a cat.
One was the cat and one was the mouse, right? Well, the mouse would always have like the little angel and the devil on his shoulders, right? Yeah. And, you know, in my family, you know, income-wise, no one had ever made anything more than, let's say, $50K a year. Like, that was a lot of money back then, you know? And no one owned a house. Everyone rented apartments. Yeah. And at the time, we were essentially in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in a terrible area. And I wanted more. And so, you know, literally it's the day after high school, and like the devil mouse or the devil Danny is saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, go get a job. Just go do what everybody else does, right? And just kind of chill out and, you know, don't stretch yourself. Don't go too far out the box, right? And like the angel Danny was saying, like, no, go for it. Like, you know, go for it. If not, if you do what everybody else does, you're going to have what everybody else has, type of deal, you know? And so that's when I started business. You know, and quite frankly, my first business just kind of fell on my lap because I was raising my little brother at the time. He was a baseball player, and one of the parents from his baseball team saw that I was responsible, and he owned 2 tortilla routes. Get this. So he had 2 tortilla routes, right? And he pulls me aside one day after only knowing me for 1 season. He says, hey, listen, you seem like a real responsible kid. I've got an opportunity for you. He says, I'm leaving Mexico for 3 months, and I don't have anybody to take care of my route. So I'll give you one of my routes. It makes this much money. Keep all the money. Just save 20% for me. And I want you to stay in my house and house sit for me. So if you think about that, like I'm pretty proud of the fact that, like, you know, at 17, 18 years old, this random stranger entrusted me with their business and their house. And I think it was just from seeing the responsibility that I had of like taking care of my little brother. Yep. You know what I mean? And so that was my first business. I worked for 3 months.
Wait, what was you delivered the tortillas?
Yeah. So
I learned how to do that. Do you know how to like do them?
No. I don't know how to like make them. I would just like, you know, buy each pack for 20 cents.
And then
I would sell them for like, you know, 70 cents. Yeah. And then the store sells it to you for like $1.10 or whatever, right? Yeah. But I had like thousands of packages of tortillas.
Love it.
I would work 3 days a week. And I remember, I think I was making between $2,000 and $3,000 a month, something like that, or $1,000 a week. Yeah, at 18 years old, right? And so I started to do that. I was working, you know, 3 or 4 days a week. I thought, man, this is really, really good. At the same time, I was going to college. And at the same time, just because I like working hard, on Sundays, I was working for a bodybuilder named Dave Fisher. Who back in the day was just like, you know, big time Mr. Olympia, IFBB, pro bodybuilder, whatever the case may be. So that's how it all started for me. And I think the most important thing that I could share with your audience is that the goal was never like make money. I think that's where most people really get hung up. because making money is such a short-term objective. Because if you really think about it, money is easy. It's out there. It's everywhere, especially, we live in the United States of America, and there's an abundance of money. The problem is not the money. The problem is our mindset about money, basically. Okay. So from the beginning, I was blessed. I said, I kind of want to make money because I want to buy a new car, but I know that's short term, and I believe in myself, and I think I'll get that car pretty soon. I need something bigger than that to keep me going. And that's when I set the intention. I said, I'm going to buy my mom a house and my two brothers a house by the time I'm 21 years old.
So was that the bigger thing?
Hell yeah.
That was the bigger thing. Like there was purpose in it. You care about your family.
Sure.
You said, I don't know how, but I'm going to do what it takes to buy my mom and brother.
Yes, my mom and my two brothers. And I'm going to get us out of this apartment. I'm going to get us into a house.
Okay.
And now I want you to consider that at the time, no adults, no 30-year-olds, no 40-year-olds. There was only I had one aunt that owned the house, basically.
Yeah.
So I was stretching.
Yep.
But I didn't care about the how, right? I didn't care about the how because when you're really focused on what you want to achieve, the how doesn't matter. The how will figure itself out, basically.
Do you read Jim Collins? Good to Great.
I have read that book.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a personal BHAG, like a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
So a big, hairy, audacious goal, a personal one.
I call it a carrot.
Okay.
So those dogs that they run around the racetrack?
Yeah.
Yep.
And they chase the rabbit?
Yeah.
Like instead of a rabbit, I also figured you've seen those cartoons or those movies where the horse, they have a string and that string has a carrot attached and the horse just keeps going because of a carrot. That's how I operate my life.
Got it.
I just have a carrot. And then once I finally reach the carrot and I eat it, I have to have another carrot.
Can you share with us what your carrot is right now today?
To sell out the Staples Center.
Okay.
Yeah,
Love it.
That's the carrot.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So keep going with your story.
Hey, you know what? I got to cut you off for a second because I'm just curious.
Yeah, let's go.
What do you think the problem is with, because I agree with you. I think everybody's so focused on short term.
Yeah.
I think our schools don't teach anything
Nothing.
Is that it though? Is it that our schools are so, what we're teaching is outdated? Why are the masses, why can't they get a grasp on this?
Okay. I mean, we're going to get deep here, but there's two sides to every human being. And when you're talking about spiritually, there's something called an ego, and then there's something called the spirit. It's essentially, it's two voices, right? And the ego's entire job is to keep you safe. It doesn't want you to feel embarrassed. It doesn't want you to take risk. It doesn't want you to get out of your comfort zone because there's danger outside of a comfort zone. And so what starts to happen as you're a little kid, you start growing up, right? And you fall for the first time. Ego says, whoa, I don't want to feel that again. Right? You raise your hand at school and you get the wrong answer and the little kids make fun of you and you feel embarrassed. Whoa, I don't want to feel that again. You get rejected by the girl or by the guy or whatever the case may be. Whoa, I don't want to feel that again. And you start to set these imaginary parameters in your head and your ego doesn't want you to feel pain, so it tries to keep you safe. Right? The spirit is the one that says, no, but look at all these people on Instagram. Like, I could do this too, right? If that guy did it, I can do it too. The problem is that because of society and because of our upbringing and because of the people we associate with, the one that gets reinforced is the ego. So when you go out there and it's time for you to make money and it's time for you to go out and fend for yourself, what's your number one priority? Your number one priority is, I got to stay safe. I got to make it. I'm by myself. My parents used to provide for me. Now it's on me. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So the objective becomes, and the thinking becomes, how do I earn enough to pay for my bills? And then what starts to happen is people stay stuck there. How do I make enough to pay for my bills? How do I make enough to pay for my bills? How do I make enough to pay for my bills? And if you really think about it, that's where society is. We've got 85% of us that are essentially, we're broke. We don't have money.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not because of the money. The money's out there. It's because of the thinking. It's because of the psychology, basically.
So basically, ego boundaries create survival mode, and survival
That's
mode
exactly
is
what
kind
it
of
is.
like a recurring cycle.
That's it.
Okay.
That's exactly
now,
what it is.
out of that, to Mikey's question, what's the way out of that?
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you ever struggle with that?
I think the first way is, you have to have that carrot. But then the second way is, and this, a coach taught me this once, there's a reticular activating sensor. It's a thing that's in your brain.
Okay.
Right? And that dictates what you believe is possible for your life or not possible for your life. I'll give you an example. When we're talking financially, $100,000 a year, like, 20 years ago used to be a decent amount of money. Right now in the state of California, you're I don't know how you're, it's
I don't
tough.
know how people
tough,
do it
right?
under $50,000 a year.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Okay, so then follow me here. The problem is whether you realize this, acknowledge this, accept this or not. You earn what you earn because of the thoughts that are going on in your head, because of the standards, because of what you think is a lot.
Yeah.
There's some people that make $100,000 a month. There's some that make $100,000 a week. I hate to burst your bubble, people. There's some that make $100,000 a day.
Yeah.
It's all determined by your money thermometer, basically, and that's the gauge that dictates what happens. So, for example, one of the things that I did is I found out about this thing called the reticular activating sensor. And I found out that if I wanted to break past $100,000 and all my family made 50 and 60, then I had to train my brain to accept.
How do you do that?
Okay, so it's an earning statement. I have a book. I have a journal, right? It's called the Mindset Journal. And every day in that journal, you write down the 5 things you're grateful for. You write down the 3 to 5 things that made you happy from the previous 24 hours. And then you have to write down, guys, this is so important, 25 times a day. You literally have to brainwash yourself. We're being brainwashed by Instagram. We're being brainwashed by TV. We're being brainwashed by radio. We're being brainwashed by the music you listen to. So I figured I brainwashed myself, right? And what I started writing was, at that time, I made $80,000 my first year in business. Okay, I was 18 years old. And I didn't want to stay stuck there. I wanted more, right? So I started writing 3 times more than the amount that I had ever earned in 1 year. So at the time it was $80K, right?
Shit,
80K, right? So then what did I do? I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I need to stretch my mind. And I need to start getting comfortable with this number. So I wrote down every day, I earn $240,000 a year or more. I earn $240,000 a year or more.
And you wrote that how many times a day?
25 times a day. Every single freaking day. Right?
Yeah.
And then what starts to happen is, at the beginning, like, your ego is like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Shut up.
Yeah.
You're tripping. That's not what you earn. Right? The spirit's like, yeah, but that'd be pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty freaking cool. Right? But the ego is so much more powerful, and the spirit gets muted. You just have to go out and just keep doing it every single day. Right? Again, don't worry about how. Don't worry about, everybody gets caught up in how. Right? How kills everything. Right?
Absolutely.
All you have to do is write it. And then essentially 4, 5, 6 months later, all of a sudden you meet the right people. You get exposed to the right circumstances. You get the right opportunities. And next thing you know, it's like you strike the right deal. And next thing you know, maybe you didn't hit the 240, but you hit like 120 or whatever the case may be. And then guess what you do? 3 times that number.
Yeah.
And then 3 times that number. And I started doing that at 18. By the time I was 27, I was making $1.5 million a year.
Yep.
At 27 years old.
I'm so glad you brought up the point of the how. I've never known the how, ever. My whole life.
Because you don't worry about the how.
No. But
right.
You know what's funny, though? And I'm glad you said this. Especially for me, 17 to 26, there was a part of me that was actually concerned that I didn't know what the how was. Everything was working for me. I was having great success at what I was doing, and I had the drive to where I wanted to go.
Right.
But I never knew, I never had it mapped out. I wasn't the kid who was 14 going, I'm going to be a pro skateboarder. I'm going to do this and do this. It was just like, almost felt like everything fell in my lap, always, right? And I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of people ask me, well, how do I do it? What? And I always feel
guilty or bad, right?
Yeah, because
right.
I go, I don't know how, because if I look back, there wasn't a master plan for me.
But there was a master vision.
Exactly.
There was a, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me explain that now, right? So I have a friend, her name is Sherry Tree. Have you ever heard of the DISC test?
No, I have not.
Okay. Note to self, all business owners, do not ever hire anyone without first having them take a DISC test.
Oh man, I wonder if this is what I just did.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So a DISC test is a personality test, right? What she did was she created something called the bank code.
Okay.
And I'm gonna help you guys with this real fast. BANK stands for B is blueprint. So there's certain people that are very blueprint oriented. They have to know exactly how everything is going to happen, right? If not, they can't take action, right? A stands for action.
Yeah.
We're actions.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need to know how. We want to win. We're competitive. We're driven, right?
Yeah.
N stands for nurturer. Mother Teresa, nurturer. Or, you go to somebody's house, like guy or girl, and they whoop up a meal real fast and they serve you and they take care of you. They open a beer for you. They make you just feel like incredible, right?
Yeah.
K stands for knowledge. Knowledge is people who are very like, they're very brainiacs, right?
Analytical.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And so all of us have a combination that makes up our personality. I happen to be an AN, action nurturer, right? And so quite frankly, the fact that I'm an A just made it a little bit easier for me to not have to struggle with the how. I just go.
Yeah.
I just go, right? I'll give you a case in point. We moved here from New York City to California. One of the downfalls of being an A is sometimes you don't pay attention to details, right? right? Okay, all right. So check this out. We moved here from California. I'm 13 years old. And in New York, my mom used to ride the train. And so she used to ride the train. And as a result of her riding the train, what happened was it inhibited her ability or her need to ever have to drive a car. So we got to California. She didn't know how to drive a car. I figured right away, Mom, we need a freaking car, right? We need a car. She had like $2,500 saved up. I walked around and I saw a Hyundai Excel for sale. It happened to be our neighbors. $3,000, whatever the case may be. We negotiated $2,500. We bought the car. We get in the car and I look down and it's a stick shift. We had already paid for the car, right? So that's an example of not understanding the importance of details somehow, right? However, I didn't let that stop me. My mom, short little 4'2" Hispanic lady, real timid personality, very nervous, very, very scared almost, right? If we were driving and the street was kind of like flat, she'd be fine. But if we stopped at a stop sign and the street was kind of like at an angle or going up, the clutch would kick in, she'd get nervous, she'd freak out. So when we got here, I drove us around illegally from the ages of 13 to 16 years old. I was the driver, right? What that taught me is, number one, I've got an issue with details. I should have checked if it was a stick shift. But number two, it taught me how to manage pressure. And it taught me to be comfortable with pressure.
Yeah.
And so, two big learning lessons.
Okay, amazing. There was something you were saying I wanted to touch on. What were we talking about when you just asked him?
Not having the plan.
Right. Okay, so basically...
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off just to tell you this real quick. So I just did a personality test through Deerdick. We were just talking about Deerdick.
Oh, yeah.
So Deerdick had a company come in, I think it was Insights. They did a personality test on all his employees and found out who meshed well, why people were having issues.
Sure.
He had me do one. I wanted to do one because I'm friends with whatever.
Sure.
And but it wasn't broken down like yours, actually. Mine, I was on this test, I was aspiring motivator.
Oh, okay,
right?
cool.
But I actually like this one better.
Yeah.
That actually sounded really cool.
Thebankcode.com, something like
perfect.
that. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I remember what I wanted to say. So here's one thing that I want to emphasize in what you're saying is that a lot of times when people hear, we just did a previous podcast on meditation. A lot of times people hear it and they think about morning routines and it sounds like, you're sitting there, and I want to throw this out there. In the toughest times that I've had, the morning routine and what you're talking about is what channels your mind for the day and what gets you into, you can literally take yourself from a place of struggle and turmoil in the morning to 30 to 60 minutes later, feeling like you can conquer the world. And that's what gets you there. That mechanical just process of going through that is very real. It's very, very real. What was the thing you talked about?
Well, reticular activating sensors.
You have to make it function how you want.
Exactly.
You have to go ahead.
So what's so funny? Not only do I'm a big believer in this, have a morning routine, but all of it. I get a lot of DMs. I got a lot of DMs from our last one, right? You really believe in this shit?
Yeah.
And it made me think when I was young. This was funny though. Yeah. When I was younger, I mean, dude, skaters specifically, but I thought it was completely full of shit.
Okay, but hold on.
Why are they really meditating is going to help? Really, it's going to help me be right.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I read a book, this was maybe 5 years ago, and it basically studied all the most successful people and looked at what they had in common, right? Mm-hmm. And the one thing that
routine.
That was the one.
Morning
and I
routine.
went, you know what?
Routine.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Started trying it and couldn't believe how more efficient I felt throughout the day.
Yeah.
And the big kind of grab for me was they were making a point that if you can leave the house in the same mindset every single day, mm-hmm. you're leaving your house to achieve. And okay. I experienced kids, right? So I went through this. I wake up. I have no clue if it's going to be crazy, if I'm going to leave frustrated, whatever, right? And when I started implementing it, it was a complete game changer for me.
Right. So we've got to understand something that to your point, yes, you have to believe in this shit. And I'm going to tell you why. If you're listening to my voice right now, you've got a decision to make and you've got a choice to make. And that decision is purely rooted in the identity in who you are as a human being and the life you want to create for your family. God bless you. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. There's going to be a price that you must pay for that. And the price is called fucking mediocrity. That's what it's called. And you've got to understand that, people. That's how serious I am about this. Okay, skaters. Case in point, Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah.
I had Rob Dyrdek on stage in my event. I had Alex Rodriguez on stage with me. I had Ed Milet on stage with me. All these incredible people. To be honest with you guys, the one I learned the most from was Rob. Rob was a skater just like everybody else. Got sponsorship deals just like everybody else. You know what made him different? His freaking morning routine and his meditation is so powerful. That guy owns several companies now. Why? Because he harnessed the power of what I'm talking about right now. It's the difference that makes the difference.
It really is. It's basically very logically telling your mind to program what you want as opposed to reacting to everything around you. It's I just want to pound it in. It's a very practical, real thing. It's funny because what you described minus 1 point is the morning routine that Mikey pretty much does every day. Mine is very similar, but listen to Danny's, find your own, the one he just described, sure. Find your own, but let's run through it real quick for the audience. Gratitude.
Yep. The 5 to 10 things you're grateful for.
Yep.
Happy. The
What's
1 to 3 things that made you happy from the previous day.
Okay.
And then 25 times I earn blank a year or more. And if they want the journal, it's on my website. They can just get it.
Great. What.com? Name the .com.
DannyMorel.com.
DannyMorel.com.
Right.
Okay.
/store, I think.
Let's move forward a little bit because we spent a lot of time on that. All right, Danny. So let's talk about your early real estate business and what you did.
Sure.
So tell us how it evolved for you in real estate.
Yeah. So it all started for me with the vision of buying my mom and my brothers a house.
Okay.
Right? That was step number 1. And I remember going to a job fair because at the time I was a recruiter. If you ever see these guys on the side of a freeway, it's called the California Conservation Corps.
Oh yeah.
So they clean up the sides of the freeways. Yeah. Well, I was a recruiter for them. And I was recruiting at this fair, and I noticed there was a real estate agent kind of across the way. So I go over and I ask him about it. I said, "Listen, I'm saving up money. Oh my God, I was doing the tortilla route, going to school. I was a recruiter, and I was working for the freaking bodybuilder.
Love it.
Anyhow, make a long story short, I asked him that fateful question. I said, "Is there any money in real estate?" He goes, "Yeah, there is." And so,
how old are you at this point?
18, 19, right,
Gotcha.
right about there,
Yeah.
right about there. And one thing I do have to say is I did say this. I said, "I'll tell you what." The bodybuilding gig is kind of ending on Sundays. I have Sundays off. I want to work for you for absolutely free. Don't pay me anything because I truly believe that knowledge is more valuable than money. You can do so much more with knowledge, right? But again, what does the ego say? The ego says, "No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Get the check," right? I'd rather be around success-minded people. I'd rather invest in a seminar. I'd rather, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're going on a jet next Thursday. We're going to Pebble Beach to Concourse d'Elegance. And, there's 4 guys. We're all splitting the jet. And one of the guys says, "Hey, I can get so-and-so to come. But I'm not going to ask him to chip in." I go, "Don't you dare ask him to chip in. I just want 30 minutes with a guy on a plane." You see, that's the kind of thinking that you have to have, right? And so that's how it started. First year in the business, I sold 28 houses.
Okay.
Second year of the business, I sold 30. Next year, I sold like 32. And then from there, it just kind of started taking off. By about year 5 or 6, I bought my first investment property. And by 27, we were doing about 150 sales a year, residential homes.
And when you say we, who's we?
My team was me, my mom, and 3 friends.
Okay.
Yeah. Average commission check was about 10 grand a pop.
Okay.
That's 1.5.
So everything at that's about 4 or 5 years in?
Yep.
Okay. So
no, about 7 years in, because I'm 27 years old.
What year is this at this point? Before the crash?
Right before the freaking crash.
Okay, so you're all in on
2007,
real
yeah.
estate at this
All
point.
in. Yeah.
Okay, so the dreaded question: What happened in
happened?
2008?
Yeah. So that's another thing. You can blame the crash, or you could blame the way you handled the crash.
Sure.
You know,
Yep.
I think personal responsibility is a critical factor in success. And, you know, for me, the crash came, but the real problem is that I didn't prepare myself for the crash because I didn't think there was going to be a crash.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
too young,
Yeah.
you know? And so,
How old were you at this point? 27?
27, 28, right about
Okay,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I shifted from real estate sales. My head got a little too big and I went into coaching prematurely because I always knew I was going to be speaking in front of people. I just feel like I didn't transition the right way. And I just cut real estate and I went right into coaching. And honest to God, I signed up 500 coaching clients within 1 year. No experience, no nothing.
this is
Pre-crash.
Pre-crash.
It was literally like the year before the crash. And then I remember I was having my first event. True story.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, I'm sorry. I got to cut you off.
Yeah.
Why did you step away from real estate?
Just because I wanted to do the coaching thing.
And you just stepped away completely.
Yeah. I was like, I'm an all-in kind of guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm an all-in kind of guy.
Always, even now.
No, not now. Because I got my ass handed to me, basically. Yeah. So I remember, you know, I rented a room at the Lowe's Coronado Hotel in Coronado. I remember that I promised them that I would sell out like 250 rooms or some number. I don't even remember what the number was. The market crashes. And, you know, my crowd is all real estate agents, right?
Oh,
and so everybody still came, but they were staying like at the Motel 6, 3 to a room, right? Just to save some money. So I got stuck with a bill for like 200 rooms. 200 rooms at like 200 a pop or whatever. Market tanks. Everybody's leaving the coaching program. You know, it was just an absolute mess.
That had to hurt.
It hurt bad.
Yeah.
It hurt bad. And that led to my downfall. So between the ages of like 29 and 31 or so, I was literally dead freaking broke. I went from making, you know, over $100,000 a month to like $1,400 a month. Not being able to afford rent, not being able to afford anything. I've got 2 kids at the time. It was bad. It was bad. But even that situation, I'm grateful for. Because what I didn't realize was happening to me was, you know, you go from a 2-bedroom apartment in the hood to, I literally built a mansion at the top of the hill. You know, your head starts to get it starts to kind of take off on you.
I love this point.
Yeah, it starts to kind of take off on you, right? And I feel as though like God needed to like smack me around.
Oh, yeah.
Because of my greater purpose.
Yep.
Because of my greater purpose, and humble me and teach me how to be more relatable to people. And so I had to go through it. I had to go through depression. I had never known what depression was. I had to feel what it felt like to like be stuck on a bed and not want to wake up, right? I'm the most like motivated, inspired, energetic. I don't need coffee. I wake up every morning, 4:30 in the morning. And for like a year and a half, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed. And so went through that. You know, finally my wife says, dude, like you kind of got to get your act together and go make some money. So it took me a while to do it, but I finally convinced myself like just go sell a house, just go do something. And so I come back, I go into real estate again for 6 months. I work my tail off. I get us out of debt. I paid back everybody that helped us out. I get us a little townhouse again. And then I really just sat there and I thought like, you know, again, forget about the how, but what do you want your life to look like? And that's when I mapped out the existence of our company, the value proposition of the company, the mission statement. And that's when I built Intero Real Estate Services. And
love it.
Yeah, and that was 8 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that we're starting to focus on in our podcast is revenue streams. So you're creating revenue streams at this point on a very, very high level.
Yeah.
And I'm going to outline them right now, and then we'll dive in and talk about how your story progressed into them. But at this point, just to give people an overview, you have Intero, which you have 400, is that correct?
400 agents.
Agents working with Intero. You know what? I'm going to stop, and because this is a point I can't miss. I watched a bunch of your interviews, like I said, and the one thing I loved about what you said is that when you came back in, and you tell it from your perspective, but you basically looked at it and said, I'm not going to start a real estate company. I'm going to start a training company to make the best real estate agents out there. So tell us about that and how you did that.
Well, the best human beings out there.
The best human beings.
Because real estate is just a vehicle.
Right.
Right. Real estate is just like owning a restaurant. It's just like being a skater. It's just like owning a part. The vehicle is the vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, what really makes you great at the vehicle is how much you're working on you. Right. So, you know, part of the blessing of me doing the coaching gig right before the market fell apart was my model. I would go into real estate offices. I would go in, I would call them and say, hey, my name is Danny Morel. I sell 150 houses a year.
Yeah.
I can show your agents how to do the same. The brokers would be like, great, come on over. And I would do it for free. I would show up and I would talk to a room of 40 or 50 people. And it was like, everybody was dead. Everybody was depressed. Everybody was sad. Nobody wanted to share ideas. So as a public speaker, it would take me 15 minutes just to like lighten up the crowd and get them to smile, you know? And so I said, you know, that's a problem. That's a problem because there's no way you as a human being can be producing at your highest output if you're in that type of environment. The problem was I visited 400 real estate offices and they were all the same. They were all the same. So I thought to myself, like, you know, I want to build an environment where number one, you have to work and you have to show up every day. Because as a real estate agent, you're an independent contractor. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's true.
Number two, you have to have goals. Number three, we're going to coach you. The same way we coached people in the coaching company, we're going to coach you in this company. Number four, we're going to hold you accountable. Number five, we're going to teach you how to sell. Number six, we're going to teach you how to convert leads. We're going to teach you how to generate leads. We're going to teach you how to invest your money. Like it literally was like a coaching company. It still is designed or under the cover of a real estate company, basically. And that was the whole vision. And I thought, if I do this, we'll kill it.
Yeah.
We'll kill it. So.
And was it any difficulty starting, or did it kind of go according to plan?
You know, man, I mean, I can just, you see, my brain is just so wired to see the positive.
Of course, I'm the same
I just
way.
I don't really harbor any. I just don't remember bad.
Let's put it this way.
I just
how
remember
long?
good.
Yeah. How long in are you? How far in with Intero?
8 years.
So you're 8 years in. If you don't disclose, it's okay. But what are you doing with your company these days?
900. We did 982 billion in sales last year.
Okay.
Revenue wise, it was
982
million in sales
I was about
last
to be
year.
like, dog.
Yeah, sorry.
Wait,
no.
did you say bill? I heard
920
million.
million.
982 million
Yeah.
in sales. Revenue was, I think, 42 million last year.
Okay.
Like that.
So revenue 42, and that's just with Intero?
That's just
Okay.
Intero
So that's
and
just
my escrow
Intero.
company. Yeah.
And your escrow company. And that's outside of Relentless and M.PIRE and your book, right? Okay. So I love that overview. So today, what does it look like when people come to work at Intero? Or how does that coaching and training take place? That is a really cool model. I really like it.
Yeah. And so what I knew is that I wanted to really own a business. There's a major difference between being a salesperson and a business owner. A business can operate with or without you being present. I'm here right now. And the principles that I founded and the lessons that I discovered and I started and I taught are still being taught right now. We've got 7 offices all throughout Southern California. It lives without me, basically.
So Gary Vee kind of gave you a hard time for that. Remember on your when you interviewed him, you just had
Gary
just
Vee's
hired...
full of shit, to be honest with you. Because Gary Vee doesn't sell. Look. I respect him. He's cool, but look at the same time, I'm not about grind.
Yeah.
I don't want to work 7.5 days a week. That's not the life I want to live. I'm home every day by 5:00. If my kids need me to drop them off school, I drop them off school.
Love it. So tell us how you did that.
It's just called living a life by design, man.
And no,
I refuse to grind. I refuse. I think there's a period where you have to grind.
Yeah.
And that's at the inception of your business, right? And that's when your business is fueled by your personal energy and your personal time. If you're grinding past 3 years of existence of your company, you have done something wrong. You have done something majorly wrong. So, I should have checked them is what I should have did. But he's on my podcast and he's like, he's just got that energy.
Yeah.
Which you got to respect
100%.
about him.
Yeah.
He's got a very powerful energy. And we were just about to go on stage. He goes on stage and he literally just talks crap to all of us because we wear suits and this and that. And I'm just like, all right. And I should have said, dude, when do you see your fucking kids? Like, when do you rest? When do you do you have a life or do you, so there's parts, I respect obviously, but
this is amazing.
But quite frankly, everybody wants a different type of life.
For sure.
I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too.
Yeah.
I don't want to work every single day. I refuse to do anything on the weekends. I don't miss my kids' soccer games. My kids just started school. I was there to drop them off. I was there to pick them up. I live life by design.
Yeah.
I live life by design.
I absolutely love that. And I agree. It's funny. I'm almost a mix between what you just said and Gary, and not because I want to be like Gary. It's, for me, I get stuck. Like I get so into something and so laser focused that without me even noticing
it just happens.
I'm doing, right? So for me, I always have to check myself to have balance with my family,
Sure.
so I can be there for my kids.
Sure.
Right. But I completely agree with you. And I think a lot of people miss that point of being a CEO or running a successful company doesn't mean you doing every single thing every single day.
It means the exact opposite.
But a lot of people I don't think know that. I have a close friend of mine runs a very successful business, right? And he's struggling with this point right there.
Yeah.
Of he feels like he has so much control by kind of micromanaging everything, but he's not. In my mind, he's not out there doing what he needs to do as the face of the brand. And
so I learned this valuable lesson, right? And it came from one of my mentors, and he taught me something. And by the way,
let me cut you off. Who is? Can I ask?
A guy
who it
named
is?
Gary Lockwood.
Okay.
He's a CEO coach. By the way, this was a process for me.
Yeah.
It took 3 years of someone that I paid to mentor me to tell me over and over 2 things. Danny, you have to change from a salesperson to a business owner. You have to change from a salesperson to a business owner. You have to, and I was like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Right. The second thing he would tell me, and this one I'll never forget. He said, only do what only you can do. Right. And so I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I'm great at driving sales. I'm great at building. I am horrible at operations. But to hire a chief operating officer, that's $100K a year plus.
Yeah.
So I was a little nervous about that, right? And it took me 3 years to pull the trigger. Once I pulled the trigger and I got over the ego, because it changed my life forever.
I agree.
Because then I thought to myself, now I have somebody running operations. Now the only thing I have to do is replace me in sales. I found my brother. I gave him a great opportunity. Essentially, the company is his now to run and to declare and to dictate the direction of the company. All I do is oversee, and now I'm able to go out and focus on building M.PIRE.
Yeah.
That's the way it runs.
And I just want to kind of touch on that real quick because I think it's so important. Find out what you're good at.
Yes.
And be okay with the things that you're not good at. I know exactly what I can't do, and I actually don't spend any time trying to get better at it. I replace it with having somebody do it for me, and I focus on what I'm good at.
Bingo.
And I think everyone needs to know that. Don't feel bad that you're not good at something.
And you know what? That's a great point, because I would feel bad like I'm not that good at marketing.
I would too.
I'm not that good at graphic design. Like, I'm not that good at writing. I'm good at video. I'm good at literally just get me in front of a camera. Everybody get out of my way. That's my genius.
Yeah.
The more of that I can do, the more that you can put me in front of an audience, the more that I create opportunities for all of my friends.
100%.
You know what? If there's one person that I look up to, it's Mark Wahlberg. Because Mark Wahlberg, I want you to think about this. Mark Wahlberg is an actor.
Yep.
That built a machine
Oh, yeah.
That as a result blesses
Yeah.
everyone around him. There's people in Mark Wahlberg's life right now that have no business making the money they make. But just because he surrounded himself with them, it's like he's the head and he makes it rain and everybody gets blessed.
And what are some of,
like, I'll give you an example, my investment business.
Okay.
We buy and flip between 80 and 100 homes a year.
Okay.
I don't touch it. I don't look at a single house. I don't do anything. My friend says, hey, we need $5 million to raise. I make a phone call. I get $5 million.
Yep.
We set up the deal. We bring in the money. I've taught him everything. I've taught him the color scheme of the properties, the color scheme of the cabinets, all of this stuff. What the house is supposed to look like, how much spread we need, what are the numbers, what are going to be the costs. I taught him everything. It's a business that runs on its own.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he'll make 7 figures as a partner in the business where he'd be making $100,000 before. Because of the machine I'm building, he's been blessed as a result.
One of the most valuable things I was ever told, and it's to your point, learn how to leverage people, time, and money.
And if you do it the right way, if you do it with a good heart, everybody wins.
Totally.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, 100%.
Love it. Okay,
that's incredible. That's incredible. I love everything about that.
Totally. And I just want to point out, like, a lot of times when people, for example, they'll say, like, you have to run a business, or you have to do, there's no, like, one way. Like, that's,
everybody does
I just
it
wanted to make the point, which you just made, that that's not true. You can run a business and step away. Depends on what type of business. Depends what you're doing. Like, it's not one way or another. So
I'm going to give everybody a vision here
Okay.
real fast, okay? And there's a story about a CEO. And he had spent 30 years at the helm of his company. And he was getting ready to retire. And he was sitting at his desk. And his desk happened to be right in front of, or behind him, he has a balcony. And on the balcony, he has a chair, and it would overlook the ocean. And he would go out, and he would sit at the chair, and he would look at the ocean, right? And he would come back in and sit at his desk. Well, anyways, one day his protege walks into the office and says, hey, boss, man, I'm so excited for you. I'm sure you must be nervous, excited. I just got one question for you. Who are you going to pick to take your place in that chair right there, And he goes, son, I'm not concerned about the person who's going to take my place in this chair. I'm looking for the guy that's going to take my place in that chair. Because truly, 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 what the CEO does is envisions the direction of the company. Mm-hmm. As long as you can envision the direction of the company, then you can find great people that, again, you can bless financially.
Absolutely.
They win, you win, everybody wins, and they actually put it all to work. Yeah.
So let's dive into the different things that you're doing. Talk about each one of them a little bit real quick. So we've talked about Intero. Mm-hmm. Tell us about M.PIRE.
Sure.
Is M.PIRE for, like, if someone out there is listening and wants to get into real estate, can they sign up for M.PIRE? How does it work?
Well, if they want to get into real estate, they just need to go. Every state has a local, like, online real estate class. Mm-hmm. Don't do it at a brokerage office.
Okay.
Because there's too many strings attached to that. Just go online, Google online real estate license, and get that done. My course, Breakthrough, that's an 8-week course. You don't even have to be in real estate for that. You just got to want to learn to make more money. Mm-hmm. It teaches you about, the mental side of business, the sales side of business, so forth and so on. I have a course called Launch that is specifically for real estate agents. And then I have a course called Leverage for people who want to be a CEO and sit in the right chair. Mm-hmm. We teach them how to leverage themselves. And those are the 3 courses right now. It's a company that we just launched literally 6 or 7 months ago.
What's the URL? M.PIRE? It's M
with no E, empireuniversity.com.
Yeah, we'll link it as well.
And then, so who specifically is that course targeted towards? Is it targeted towards people that want to start, or like mid-level?
Leverage? Yeah. No, Leverage is for people who are already making $250,000 a year that they want to get to.
They want to get higher.
Yeah.
And
because it's expensive.
So got you. Yeah. And then your Relentless event. Let's talk about that a little bit. You had Ed Milet out. You had Gary Vee out. You had
A-Rod.
That's the one I was getting. I had no idea until last night that he has 55,000.
I didn't know that
units.
either. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So tell us about Relentless.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean,
how long ago did it start?
I'm going to take it a step further.
Okay.
remember how you said something. You said, sometimes I feel like it's like not fair, or you said something about like you've never worried about the how.
Yeah.
So you almost feel bad because you don't know what to tell people, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think I was a little almost insecure in a sense of like not feeling like I had like the executed plan. So
I'll tell you how Relentless started. Relentless started because here I am. I'm this kid that was living in a 2-bedroom apartment that ends up making $1 million a year by the time he's 27. And I would look around and I would see like other people weren't experiencing the type of breakthroughs that I was experiencing. And so way back when, I thought to myself, someday I'm going to have an event where I can teach people the mental game it takes to blow your life up, the communicative game, the skills that it takes to sell more and to communicate properly, the mental breakthroughs that people need to have in order to experience the type of growth that they want to experience in life and in business. And so that was Relentless. That's the purpose for Relentless.
Love it.
It's really all about having that relentless spirit to go out and accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So it was pretty awesome. We had 2,000 people in the room for 3 days. And the format was, on day one, we talked about the mind. Because the first thing you got to get clear is that whole ego spirit battle.
Yeah.
You got to get that fixed, right? If you don't get that fixed, forget about it. I could tell you how to sell. I could tell you what to say. Nothing's going to work.
Yep.
The second day, we talked about sales. I don't care who you are and whatever business you're in, you need to learn how to sell.
Absolutely.
And then the third day, we talked about wealth. Because you could sell all you want, but if you blow your money, you're in the same place.
Yep.
So it's a 3-day event. I'm really, really proud of it. I'm proud to say, quite frankly, I don't think there's an event like it in the country.
I love that format. I love it.
You had your first one?
This was my second.
Second. And when will the third
my
one be?
My second official one. It'll be next year.
Okay, so it's annually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Love it. Yeah, it looked really cool. I love that format too. That's such a good, just mind, sales, money. Like it just goes like that. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Mikey.
What I'm blown away with, and I'd love to hear your point on it. I know a lot of really successful people that make a lot of money and do not know what to do with that money. They do not know how to grow it to wealth. Do you find that with you as well?
Oh, not at all.
No, everyone that you know that's successful.
Oh, you mean with me, my circumstance?
No, you like people. Like anyone in your circle that's like, I have a lot of friends that have really successful businesses, but they know how to drive revenue towards their business.
Yeah.
But they struggle with investing, saving.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if it's just my circle or if that you think that's
I mean, again, listen. Everybody has a different approach. There's not a right approach. There's not a wrong approach. My approach for my most recent 7 to 8 year run has been to reinvest in me. And so what I would do is I would take the capital from the business and go open up another office and go open up another office and go open up another office. And quite frankly, we didn't talk about this, but it's not just the real estate company and the escrow company. There's a technology piece to it. There's an insurance piece to it. There's a security alarm piece to it. There's so many different pieces that we just keep reinvesting in the machine and building it and building it and building it. Why? Because I tried stocks once and I just don't understand the game. So I just stay out of it. I stay out of it and I invest in what I know, which is me.
Yeah.
And I always win and I always come true, and so, and then secondly, I'm blessed that I come from the real estate background, So I don't, for me, if all else fails, real estate.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's amazing. So you have, should we go into that or should we move forward? We don't have that much time, but you have a technology piece within Intero. Can you tell us like some of the pieces, maybe just give us one of them? Yeah, it sounds like you have a business that's standard and you're enhancing your own business, making it outperform your competition.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it really comes from the value that we are providing for the agents.
That's what I mean. You provide more value by your...
I mean, basically, yeah. So like, I'll give you an example. In the CRM space, nobody was providing in terms of technology some of the tools that I felt real estate agents need in order to succeed.
So you built your own CRM?
So I built our own. That it's way more than a CRM. It allows them to build a business plan and keep track of their analytics and see reporting and graphs.
For anybody listening that doesn't know a CRM, it basically keeps track of all your information. Let's leave it at that.
Sure. Yeah.
So now your agents, your 400 agents now have access to a CRM that helps them do their business better. Bingo. Love it. Okay, bingo, thanks for that. That was amazing. Bingo. All right, so let's really quickly go. You have Relentless. You have M.PIRE. You have Intero. You also buy and flip about 100 homes a year.
Yeah.
Man, this is amazing. So really quickly, tell us about, I've noticed you're out there. You're in social media. You're interacting. We found that a lot of the people that we're interviewing have businesses and are getting out front of those businesses and becoming the face. Are you intentionally doing podcasts? What's your game plan? Do you have a game plan there?
First and foremost, I think when it comes to social media and when it comes to all of this stuff, you have to have a reason why you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think too many people are caught up in posting like motivational stuff for the sake of posting motivational stuff. You got to remember, everything that I do, like, I genuinely want to help people achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve.
Yeah.
That was the foundation of the real estate company. That's the foundation of the CRM. It's the foundation of everything. So, my approach on social media is that it's on a daily basis to help remind people, to teach people, to give them the insights that they need in order to win and win at a bigger level, basically.
Love it.
And quite frankly, the end game is Tony Robbins is somebody that I admire. Oprah Winfrey is somebody that I admire. I want to make that kind of a change eventually. Okay. I don't know how that's going to happen. Yeah. I'm not attached to how. Yeah. I just keep reminding myself of that vision. Yeah. And I trust that the universe is going to bless me and align me with the right people that I need in order to make it happen. And that's it.
So here's my question for you. For someone that's listening, we did a podcast yesterday called How to Quit Your Job. Or not yesterday, it came out yesterday, called How to Quit Your Job. And we mentioned specifically in the podcast servers, bartenders.
Oh, okay.
We got so many DMs specifically from servers going, oh my gosh, like I needed to hear that. So let me ask you this, not necessarily at servers, but at anybody who's maybe working a job, just getting by, what would your advice be to them, and specifically tied to what you're doing?
My biggest piece of advice for anybody that wants to make a change is you have to get crystal clear with what it is that is wrong with what you're currently doing and why it bothers you and why you should fix it. If not, nothing will happen.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. If I would have had this interview a year ago, I was about 25 pounds heavier. 25 pounds heavier. Like my face was like that round, right? Like it was 25 pounds heavier. And this was a struggle that I had in my life for a long time. I work out every single morning for 20 years. But on the weekends, I would eat healthy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, I would kind of start to mess up. And then Friday and Saturday, I would fall apart. And then guess what would happen? It was like this vicious cycle over and over and over again. And finally, I started thinking to myself, for my vision for selling out the Staples Center, I got to get healthy. I can't be unhealthy talking about you can have an incredible life. That just doesn't make any sense, right? So it upset me. It upset me that my vision was at risk because of the current state of my health.
Yeah.
And when it finally started to bother me is when I finally started to do something about it. You'll never quit being a bartender. You'll never quit your job. You'll never take action until it bothers you. It has to infuriate you, right? Your standards have to raise. If your standards don't raise, you will be perfectly fine with where you're at.
Yeah.
That's the biggest piece of advice. Because as long as it infuriates you, you'll figure out the how.
Yeah.
You'll figure out the how.
That, and I'm gonna add to what you're saying, because sometimes, like I've actually been in that situation where I was so frustrated and I hated it, but then I think the few times that I did give up, it was because it was affecting where I was, and I was so frustrated being at work. So you kind of have to figure out a way to say, I'm going to change. I don't know how,
But this bothers me. But this bothers me so much that I need to do something right now.
I am not. I'm not accepting that this is my permanent state.
Bingo.
And I will find a way, whether it's tomorrow or whether it's in 5 months. I will do everything I can
and set a target.
And
I'm sure you guys covered it in the podcast.
Totally.
That's why I wanted to take a different angle.
Or maybe we didn't set a target.
I mean, yeah. I would say first you have to get mad.
You have to do everything in your power to create action. Right, that's in my mind.
Yeah,
and I'm, you know what? I think I'm going to answer your question for you. So I'm just going to
go.
keep going. Yeah. Basically, a big thing for me with basically what I was doing in my morning routine is I was writing. I do 5 things I'm grateful for, 5 things of what I want to become, and then 5 kind of goals for the day. Right, but in what I wanted to become, I was writing it out like. I want to be present. I want to be selfless, right? And somebody DM me.
I am.
Exactly, right? So I changed it to I am, and then I went through this whole breakdown of this description of who I am, right? And I don't know why it works.
It works.
But gosh, once you know like what you want to do, you start thinking about basically how to get there.
Right.
And before you know it, you're creating action, taking steps to get there.
Bingo.
Is what I experienced.
Bingo. Yeah. People use words like I am going to, or I eventually will, and what happens is this. I'm going to teach you guys something. It's more of that shit that do you believe that, okay, here we go. What starts to happen is people don't realize the subconscious mind doesn't know what's true.
Yeah.
It has no idea what's true. It only knows what you tell it. Everybody that's listening to me right now has experienced fear at some level. Fear is fake. It's your emotional attachment to something that you think is about to happen. That's all it is. It hasn't even happened.
Yeah.
It's something that you think is going to happen. It sends shockwaves through your body because your subconscious mind doesn't know that it happened or not. You've just convinced it that it's going to happen, and thus you feel afraid. And so what starts to happen is when you say things like, someday I will quit my job, all your subconscious mind registers is, well, you haven't done it yet, so we're perfectly fine with where we are right now. Versus saying, I quit my job, or versus saying, I will earn $1 million. That's a lot different than saying, I am a millionaire. It's as if it's already here, right? And if you start living from it as if it's already here, then the subconscious mind will help you to attract the circumstances you need to get you there.
And I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. If you put that into practice today, you can. That's how I saw what you said. I learned that from Tony Robbins when I was like 15.
Absolutely.
And this is what he said. He said, your subconscious mind will solve any problem you want.
Absolutely.
You basically program it in there, and it works better when it's not forced. So you program it in there and you forget about it. You say, I'm going to find someone in the next week. You give it a target that does this. Forget about it. It'll happen. Because your subconscious mind is now scanning, just like when you think of white Teslas, all you see is white Teslas.
Right.
Your subconscious mind will start scanning. I need someone who is, and it's going to start, and you're going to find it. So that's a micro example of what you're talking about on a macro, on a bigger level, which is program your life into your brain and then let it happen. And take action. It's not to say you don't need to take action. You do, but I love it. I love that. That is one of my favorite things. And thanks for sharing that, Danny.
Awesome.
Okay. So we went over that. Now let's plug all your stuff. Is there anything else we didn't cover? I mean, we covered I think we covered everything.
Everything. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we covered everything.
So if people want to connect, if they want to check you out, let's plug your stuff.
So the best place is Instagram.
Okay.
Just because I like it, so I'm really active in it. I have fun with it, stories and so forth and so on. The next place is just look up on any podcast app, Danny Morel, and the Danny Morel Show will show
Tell
up.
them what your Instagram is.
Danny Morel,
Okay.
DANNYMOREL, and then finally on YouTube. I would say those are the 3 places.
Okay,
perfect.
And then the events. We already plugged all those. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is a really good...
Relentlessevent.com.
Relentlessevent.com.
Yeah. And we still haven't announced the location or the speakers of next year.
Yeah.
But we've already sold over 500 tickets.
Okay.
Awesome.
Love it. And the book. We didn't plug the book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the book for a couple minutes before we wrap. So,
The book is called The Resilience Roadmap.
Okay.
It's a step-by-step. Like, I'll give you an example. Chapter 1 is decide to live by faith versus fear.
Okay.
And so the entire every chapter builds on the previous chapter, because you can't get to step number 2, decide what you want, if you're living from fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just to give you that little example. The book, I wrote it in a way where if you're ever struggling in life, you just open the front cover and you look at the list of chapters and you go, oh, that's where I'm failing right here. And you go to that chapter and then you build from there, type of deal. So it's step-by-step, chapter-by-chapter book to help you design whatever business of your dreams it is that you want to design. Exactly how I did it from a real world perspective.
It sounds like it'd be better to get an actual copy of this book.
Yeah. Or
I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but something like that would be cool to have that.
It's
so
awesome.
Where can people buy it?
DannyMorel.com/store.
Cool. Okay.
If not, it's
Love
on
it.
Audible if people are on.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So guys, basically, let's take a recap here. Your mind and everything Danny is talking about. If you're in a tough spot, do this stuff. It is so real. It is literally so real. You see people like Danny and him. He's talking about Rob Dyrdek. I can't remember if we were on or not in the podcast here. But you see people who have all these crazy goals accomplished and they do these things.
Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes people hear him and think, that's
weird or whatever.
But you see people
the
doing
result.
it and it works,
Right.
So thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.
I'm really stoked and impressed with what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
This
you,
is great.
guys.
Thank
And
you.
don't forget to leave us reviews on the iTunes store. We appreciate those. Give us a follow at AVNI Intelligence on Instagram.
Yeah. To send us some DMs, man. We love hearing from you guys.
We loved the DMs last time from the Quit Your Job episode. So, and then also feel free to reach out to Danny. So thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And let's wrap there.